What's going on, everyone? BroccoBeef here, taking over for J Wack on the Lockdown Podcast, your home for grid content on the NBL network. We have a lot to get to here, recapping this last season for Madden 16. We're going to take a look at the playoffs, see who made it and who was eliminated here towards the Super Bowl. We're going to review the Super Bowl itself between the Saints and Steelers, aka Backley and 24. Look at the box scores and a few stats for the players. We've also got an interview with the champ. Well, not really an interview. I asked 24 some questions and he sent me some answers, so we're going to go over those. We're going to highlight the team selection, check out a few of the top 10 picks, go over those and a few surprise picks that fell. And then we've got our member spotlight we hit every episode. So let's get to it. Alright, taking a look at this AFC playoff picture here made by Nix146. Thanks for the graphics help, buddy. We're going to start in the wild card round here on the far right side with the Chargers, who is Jamzel, or who was Jamzel. This was his last grid game here as he made room for somebody else. And Eddie Mars, the newcomer here, taking over the Texans. He beats Jamzel 47-43 in a barn burner. Some high-scoring playoffs this time around. Last season it wasn't so bad. This season, these games were just high scoring, except down here, Lil Bio and Mr. Perfect, the Broncos and the Colts. Lil Bio misses his shot at a championship, losing by 3 to Mr. Perfect. We're going to move on to the divisional round where Backley makes his statement, continuing his perfect season, beating Eddie Mars 24-0, shutting him out completely in the divisional round. No questions there. Eddie Mars may be a good player, but Backley has been completely dominant this season. Just all around great play on both sides of the ball. We move down the graphic here to the Colts and the Jets. The Jets were taken over by newcomer Alex, and he defeats Mr. Perfect in another high scoring game, 41-35. Moving on to the AFC Championship round to face Backley. That game seemed close, but Backley pretty much dominated the whole game there, 23-14. Backley continues a good 18-0 to the Super Bowl to face 24. Moving on here to the NFC playoff picture, again, graphic made by Nix146. We're going to start off here with the Giants and the Redskins, Sipe and J Wack. In J Wack's last grid game, he loses 34-17. He had a hard-fought season. He made his way in, and he stuck in there, but Sipe and Odell Beckham just completely dominated this year, and you could tell in that game looking at the stats. Moving on down, Shotmaster in his first playoff game facing off against Drocco, which is a horrible chance of luck there. Drocco shuts him down 38-7 in a dominant performance himself. Moving on to the divisional, the Bears jumped up to play New Orleans at home, and New Orleans 24, again, dominant play. It was a close game. Drocco and that defense held off for a little bit, but again, 24 makes away. Moving down here to this next game between the Seahawks and the Giants, Intrain and Sipe. Intrain comes away with this one, as you can see, 41-35. Intrain making a statement and proving he belongs here in the playoffs. Sipe falling short again. OBJ just couldn't get it done. Intrain, that Seahawks defense just still kicking here 5 years later into the season. And last but not least, we reached the NFC Championship round between 24, the defending champion, and Intrain. Completely one-sided here. 24 makes a statement and beats Intrain 41-10, continuing his quest for back-to-back titles. I didn't hear much about this game, but just the score alone shows that sometimes things just don't go your way here in Madden. And finally, we get to the Super Bowl itself. 24 comes home with this one, 24-17. Ironic, he scores 24 points to finish it off. But looking at these stats here more in depth, the Saints had 280 passing yards compared to Backley's 202. Rushing was about even. As you can see, both offenses and defenses were effective in the red zone. Third down conversions, Backley was on it. He was playing catch up. But those 2 turnovers there really hurt him. The player stats here show a lot more of what was going on. As we see here, Jarrett Rodgers, quarterback for the Saints, 14 for 21, 66% pass completion, no interceptions, 280 yards and 3 touchdowns. He spread the ball out quite a bit. Threw for some huge chunks of yards for just throwing 14 passes. We're going to take a look at these receivers down here. DeMarcus Blake, 4 catches for 114 yards and a touchdown with a long of 75. And Markeith Jackson, 4 catches for 101 and a touchdown with a long of 59. 2 very long plays there in this game. You've got Devontae McNeil down here with 3 catches for 15, probably a quick short pass to him on the outside. Tyler Patrick, 3 catches for 50 yards. So it seemed like he spread the ball out to a good group of receivers there. Definitely made some waves. His running game, sort of effective if you take away that long of 15, 10 carries for 34 yards. It's kind of not, 3 yards a carry is not bad at all. It's effective. The quarterback himself running 5 times for 15 yards, probably getting out of the pocket there. But we'll switch over here to the Steelers side and look at Backley. The Rookie of the Year, Dustin Joyner, and MVP, had a tough game. 12 throws for 23 attempts. Just borderline 50% there. 229 yards and 2 touchdowns with those 2 game-breaking INTs. His receivers were spread out quite a bit down here. Running back Le'Veon Bell got him a catch. 4 catches for 83 for Sammy Coates and a touchdown. Martavis Bryant being dominant as well. 2 catches for 83 and a touchdown with a long of 62. Antonio Brown still kicking it here in the year 2020. 2 catches for 28 yards with a long of 14. A couple more receivers down here. Le'Veon Bell struggling with 11 carries for 60 yards. I mean, it was a close game. Both players were running on all cylinders, and it just leaned in 24's favor. If you take away those 2 interceptions from Backley's side, I'm pretty sure Backley might have been able to pull it off. But 24 hung in there and got it done.
After his Super Bowl win, I got a hold of 24 here for a small written interview over his chat. I asked him 5 questions about this season and what he's looking forward to next season. The first question I asked him was, how did he feel winning back-to-back titles? His answer was he really didn't think of it as winning back-to-back titles, considering Backley wasn't able to play last season. But it was definitely a fun ride, and anytime you can get 3 extra games in with some tough sim competition, he can't complain. The second question I tapped him with was, how do you keep that high-powered offense rolling season long? His answer was he didn't have to do much. This entire team is loaded with talent at every position, and he just focused on not being predictable. He took what the defense gave him. His goal was to protect the ball and not give up short field every game, which, looking at his stats, he was a very dominant player. His offense was rolling and clicking on all cylinders, and he just seemed almost ruthless in every one of his games. Now, the third question I asked him was, who was the one player you could count on no matter what situation you were put in? His choice was Stephon Anthony, linebacker. He had a knack for making plays regardless of where he was on the field. He had a lot of sacks on the few times he let him rush, and he tallied a few picks jumping routes over the middle. He was very stout against the run and definitely a huge impact player for him game in and game out. Now, the fourth question I asked him involves everyone here in the grid. I asked if there's anyone he's really looking forward to with locking up with next season. 3 names off the top of his head were Backley and Training Brocco. He looks forward to playing all 3 of them because they're very talented and their last games were a lot of fun. Definitely a group that he's looking forward to locking up with for sure. And leading into our next section, team selection, the last question I asked him was, now that you've selected the Jags for Madden 17, how soon do you think you can get that young talent to elite status? His answer was he really hadn't checked the rosters thoroughly just yet, but he knew that they're young and they have a lot of talent. He really enjoys the jersey combos, which most people I know really enjoy the Jags uniforms. I personally was a fan of those mustard yellow color rush uniforms they had last year, and I really hope they're thrown into the game this year. But he said he's really not sure how Madden 17 will play out, but based on the skill positions that he knows off the top of his head, and as long as the O-line holds up, he thinks he's pretty confident that he'll be okay. Yet again, 24, thank you for your time and answering those questions. Hopefully for my next interview I can actually have a voice conversation with said person. I'm still working on that, seeing as this is my first podcast. I'm pretty sure I can handle it, but it was a short, quick interview I wanted to get for him, just to give everyone a chance to see what's going on in his head here after these last 2 dominant seasons he's put up. And we look forward to seeing what you do next year, buddy. And same with Backley too. I mean, 16-0 is huge compared. I mean, not very many teams go 16-0 even in real life. So, of course, he went the Patriots route and lost in the Super Bowl, but it wasn't a dominant loss. He fought to the very end. Congrats, you two, for making the Super Bowl 2 seasons in a row, and we look forward to what you guys can do next season. Now, as I touched a little bit on that last question with 24, us here in the grid, we finished our team selection for Madden 17 here in the next few weeks. Some surprise picks, but of course Backley there's number one, as you can see on this graphic, taking the Steelers. It's his favorite team. He doesn't really get a chance to use them much in the NBL, so he takes advantage of it here in the grid. Last season, as you can see, he was very dominant, was going 16-0. So we'll see how he plays it next year going forward. Play a partner here taking the Cowboys with that great O-line here at number 2. Drocco, as a surprise, taking the Redskins with a 3rd pick. A little unorthodox, but I'm pretty sure he'll find a way to win there with that mixed defense. McGiblets, of course, taking the Lions. We didn't even have to wait for his pick. We knew exactly who he was taking. They were there. In train at number 5, taking the Raiders. Young team, great Madden team going forward. Looking to see what he does there with those guys. Frylock staying in the AFC East with his Patriots again. Can't go wrong with the Brady to Gronk connection. Defense is great. Just the team has very decent talent based on even just the names of those guys there. I went with the Cardinals at number 7. I couldn't pass up having Honey Badger, who was probably one of the best defensive players I've seen in a Madden coming out yet. That high-powered offense with Palmer, Fitzgerald, who both just got contract extensions. Those receivers, young David Johnson, running back. I mean, I'm looking forward to using these guys. 24, the back-to-back champ, going into Madden 17, taking the Jags. Albidness, who just recently got called up to the NBL, takes the Broncos, which they'll be vacated for somebody else. Gubb at number 10, taking the Browns. Definitely unorthodox, but based on the draft picks they have coming, based on the Eagles season, it could pan out for him. Nick's 146 down there, the maker of this graphic here, he took the Panthers. They fell to 12. I figured they'd be a top 10 team. Seahawks, T. Porter got them at 16. I figured they'd be a top 10 team. Shotmaster with the Texans at 19. I mean, just some teams falling, like Javai down there with the Jets, 27. I would have took the Jets higher than that. They would have at least been in the top 20 for me. They fell kind of low, but everyone seemed to got the team that they wanted. Everyone's looking forward to getting in. Everyone's already playing exhibition games with their respective teams and updated rosters, trying to get the feel for them. But of course, no one's going to get used to Madden 17 yet. It's going to take some time with these new zones and these new, just all these new features we got going in. So that's the team selection. Everyone, like I said, is looking really forward to this. As of right now, recording this, we're only less than 2 weeks away from Madden 17, so it's right around the corner. And last but certainly not least, we get to our member spotlight. This episode, I chose StrugleSnuggle, the new Packers owner for Madden 17 and the past owner for the Cowboys there for Madden 16. He's been in the grid for the last 2 Maddens, is what he said. He's been with the NBL/grid playing with these guys. He's been playing Madden since it was called Joe Montana football, way before they changed it to Madden. Looking forward to the NBL, he says he's ready for the next step of elite sim talent and adding another family to his already amazing Madden family. He was really kind of adamant to answer the feature he wanted out of Madden if he was a developer. He says he really wants to fix when your receiver gets stopped off of his route by linebackers and there's no pass interference called, or always being able to tip passes up to the corner for another quarterback just to swoop in and intercept it. Those were his choices. A little facts about him, though. He threw a little facts out there. He runs nightclubs in North Carolina. He's a second-degree black belt in Hapkido. He lives on the beach. So he's a very big martial artist. He's a huge fantasy football guy. He's in 4 leagues. He does everything. He seems like a pretty chill guy. He's been around for a while. In and out of the top 5, hanging in there, solid player. We really appreciate his sim gameplay and everything he brings to the grid. He's definitely going to be around for a while longer on his path to the NBL. That's all I really have here for this episode of The Lockdown, this 3rd episode. Next episode coming up will be based on Madden 17. Starting off there, it's going to come out during the release week, anywhere from Wednesday to Friday. We're going to get some quick reactions from some members here in the grid of how Madden 17 feels so far, some favorite things we like, some dislikes right off the bat. We're going to go into recap the features CFM has this year, talking about practice squads and how everyone feels about that. Also, just, talk Madden, talk grid. Grid starts here pretty soon after Madden 17 comes out, along with NBL, and I know we're all looking forward to get games going. So, thanks for listening, guys. I really appreciate you tuning in, and I'm looking forward to keeping this thing rolling. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button here on the NBL Network to keep up with grid content and NBL content. Again, thanks for listening, and tune in 2 weeks for the next episode, number 4 of the Lockdown Podcast here on the NBL Network.